Hello everyone, I'm Chris, and this is everything you need to know before watching Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, releasing May 6th. Real quick, if you're watching this video and you haven't yet subscribed, make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to know anytime we upload a new video. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness looks to continue Doctor Strange's story while also expanding on the multiverse outside of the MCU. The film will also continue the story of his co-star and fellow Avenger Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch, with the two characters having been featured in a total of 7 MCU projects already. I suggest you check out said 7 MCU projects, which will be listed in the description, before watching the new Doctor Strange film. But if you're looking for a quick refresher before the movie, then you've come to the right place. I'm only going to be talking about events that have taken place in the MCU involving this film's cast of characters and the multiverse. But if you're curious to know about characters that might appear in this film from other Marvel universes, then click the first link in the description for our video on every rumored and confirmed character in Multiverse of Madness. When we first meet Dr. Stephen Strange in 2016, he's a brilliant yet arrogant neurosurgeon who's shown to have a close and once intimate relationship with a fellow doctor, Christine Palmer. After another successful surgery, Strange invites Christine to accompany him to a neurological society dinner, but she declines his offer. And on his way to said dinner, Strange gets into a car accident that severely injures his hands. Over the following months, he tries every surgery and medication money can buy, but he's unable to heal his hands. Christine tries to convince him that it might be time to move on, but this just angers Strange, who berates her and tells her to leave him alone. Following her exit, Strange opens a package sent by a physical therapist he was working with, who claimed he'd once seen a man recover from nerve damage more severe than Strange's. And the package proves this tale to be true. So Strange tracks down the man, Jonathan Pangborn, and asks how he managed to recover from paralysis, and he tells him the place he's looking for is Kamar-Taj. So Strange travels to Nepal and searches for Kamar-Taj throughout Kathmandu, but during his search, he's attacked by a group of thugs looking to steal his watch, before luckily being saved by Karl Mordo, who swiftly takes out the 3 men. Mordo was revealed to be a member of the Masters of the Mystic Arts, who helps recruit and train future sorcerers and brings Strange to Kamar-Taj, where he's met by the Ancient One. Strange questions her about Jonathan Pangborn's miraculous recovery, and she claims that it wasn't due to any medical treatment, but to their ability to reorient the spirit to better heal the body. Strange believes her claims to be nonsense and berates her, and she responds by pushing his astral form out of his physical body. Strange, in a state of shock and confusion, is then sent through an incredible visual sequence where the Ancient One explains the infinite universes in various dimensions.
Who are you in this vast multiverse, Mr. Strange?
Following this display of her power, Strange begs her to teach him her ways, and she eventually agrees. Over the next several months, Strange is trained to harness energy drawn from other dimensions of the multiverse, to cast spells and to conjure shields and weapons, while also studying books from the Sanctum's library, guarded by Wong, another powerful sorcerer. As he progresses in his training, he also learns of the Mirror Dimension, a parallel dimension where those wearing a sling ring, a mystical ring with the ability to create a dimensional gateway to another location or even a different dimension, have full control and can fold and warp reality without affecting the outside world. While sparring with Mordo, he attempts to learn more about the Ancient One's past, but Mordo claims no one knows much of her history, but that they trust their teacher because she made them into who they are, warning Strange to do the same and not lose his way like Caecilius. Caecilius was once a student of the Ancient One, who came to Kamar-Taj following the loss of his wife and son. He was a brilliant student, but at some point began questioning the Ancient One, and rejecting her teachings before leaving Kamar-Taj with his disciples and stealing a forbidden ritual from the Sanctum's library. Strange later heads to the library only to find it empty and Wong nowhere to be found, so Strange looks through the Ancient One's private collection of literature, with one in particular containing rituals using the Eye of Agamotto, a powerful relic created as a containment device for the Time Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones. Strange allows his curiosity to get the best of him, and uses it to bend time, first using it on a bitten apple, before using it to restore the pages stolen by Caecilius containing a forbidden ritual involving the Dark Dimension and its ruler Dormammu to gain eternal life. Strange begins the ritual, but he's luckily stopped by Wong and Mordo, who warn him that he nearly broke the space-time continuum. Mordo is shocked that Strange was even capable of understanding the ritual, and claims he was born for the mystic arts. Wong then explains their purpose and history, stating that the 3 sanctums, each in Hong Kong, New York, and London respectively, together generate a shield around Earth to protect it from other dimensional beings, like Dormammu, with sorcerer's duties being to protect the sanctums. We learn that Dormammu dwells beyond time, on a quest to invade every universe and bring all worlds into his dark dimension, craving Earth most of all. This proves to be too much for Strange to handle, who says he doesn't want any part in some mystical war, and just came here to heal his hands. Suddenly, the gateway to the London Sanctum opens, just as Caecilius destroys it with a huge blast that separates the 3, with Strange ending up in the New York Sanctum. Caecilius and 2 of his zealots show up soon after and kill the New York Sanctum's master, before attacking Strange. He appears to be no match for them, but still manages to trap the two zealots in different locations using the sanctum's rotunda of gateways, and with the help of the Cloak of Levitation, is able to trap Caecilius in place with another of the sanctum's relics. Caecilius attempts to convince Strange that they're trying to save Earth and give them all eternal life by taking their rightful place in the Dark Dimension. He claims that Camartage just collects broken things with the promise of being healed, but instead they're given parlor tricks while the Ancient One keeps the real magic for herself, such as her prolonged life. Suddenly, Strange is stabbed in the chest by a returning zealot who had gotten a hold of Strange's sling ring, so Strange, seeing no other way to save himself, creates a gateway to the hospital he formerly worked at and finds Christine, who manages to save his life with the help of Strange in his astral form. Strange attempts to explain what just happened and what he's been doing, but is only able to convince her it's true after showing her the gateway that he steps through to return to the sanctum, where he's met by Mordo and the Ancient One following Caecilius' escape. Strange has a heated confrontation with the Ancient One, claiming she draws her powers from the Dark Dimension, and she exits without a rebuttal. Caecilius and his zealots then return to the sanctum and nearly destroy it, just as they destroyed London's, but Strange traps them inside the mirror dimension. Unfortunately, it turns out drawing power from the Dark Dimension makes you even more powerful in the mirror dimension. Strange and Mordo try to avoid Caecilius' attack, but he eventually catches up to Strange and goes for a fatal stab, only to be stopped by the Ancient One, and it's revealed that she truly does draw power from the Dark Dimension. She tries to reason with Caecilius, warning him that Dormammu's eternal life is not paradise, but torment. But he doesn't believe her, and the two engage in a battle that ends with Caecilius stabbing her in the abdomen before kicking her through a gateway that sends her out of the mirror dimension, falling out of the sky and straight into the ground below. Strange takes her to the hospital, but while doctors are tending to her, she enters her astral form to the bewilderment of Strange. When he finds her, she explains that through all of her years peering through time, she can never see past this exact moment. With her death imminent, she gives Strange some final words of advice, saying he could choose to go back to his old life with his hands healed or serve something greater than himself. She explains that although she's hated having to draw power from the Dark Dimension, sometimes one must break the rules to serve the greater good. Following her death, Strange says his goodbyes to Christine before meeting with Mordo, who expresses his disappointment and disgust with the Ancient One, but still agrees to fight alongside Strange against the Zealots, and the two head to Hong Kong. But it appears they're too late, with the Zealots having already killed Wong and destroyed the sanctum. With the Dark Dimension beginning to engulf Earth, Strange is forced to break the laws of nature and use the Eye of Agamotto to turn back time, which also allows them to save Wong. The Zealots are still able to attack them, but they manage to thwart their attack momentarily, until Caecilius joins the fight once again and freezes time. Believing there to be no other way to stop them, Strange enters the Dark Dimension and confronts Dormammu in an attempt to bargain with the entity, but is promptly killed. But in that moment, Strange used the Time Stone to create an infinite time loop that traps him and Dormammu in the same moment for all of eternity. After repeatedly killing Strange to no avail, Dormammu reluctantly agrees to leave Earth if Strange breaks the loop, taking Caecilius and his zealots with him. Although they managed to save Earth from being engulfed by the Dark Dimension, Mordo was still disgusted by Strange's disregard for the consequences of violating the natural law.
The bill comes due. Always.
He then says he will no longer follow their path, and severs all ties with Camartage, later being shown extracting and absorbing the power of former students of the Ancient One, such as Jonathan Pangborn. For the next couple of years, Strange takes residence in the New York Sanctum, where he continues his studies and becomes the new Sorcerer Supreme, while also forming a close friendship with Wong. But one day, Dr. Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk, suddenly comes crashing through the Sanctum's ceiling and warns them that Thanos is coming. Hulk had been off-world since 2015, following the Avengers' battle against Ultron, but was planning to return back to Earth with Thor, another founding member of the Avengers, after Asgard had been destroyed following Ragnarok, before their ship was attacked by Thanos and his army. Luckily, Asgard's powerful gatekeeper Heimdall was able to summon Hulk to Earth through the Bifrost Bridge before being killed, so that he could warn Strange of Thanos' arrival. The Mad Titan Thanos is one of the galaxy's most powerful beings, with an army of followers known as the Black Order, that he sends throughout the galaxy to collect the 6 Infinity Stones, with the objective of bringing stability to the universe by wiping out half of all life, as he believes his massive population would inevitably cause it to perish. Strange finds another founding member of the Avengers, Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, and brings him to the Sanctum, where he explains to him and Banner what the Infinity Stones are. Turns out 2 of the stones are currently on Earth, those being the Time Stone in the possession of Strange, and the Mind Stone, which is currently bound with the body of Vision after being brought to Earth during an invasion by Loki and the Chitauri army known as the Battle of New York, and was later used to turn Tony Stark's AI system Jarvis into Vision during their battle against Ultron. Over the next 3 years, Vision fell in love with another Avenger first introduced in their battle with Ultron, Wanda Maximoff, who, along with her brother Pietro, underwent experiments by Hydra that transformed them into mutants, with her gaining the ability to harness magic and her brother gaining superhuman speed. They originally worked alongside Ultron against the Avengers, but switched sides when they learned of Ultron's true intentions. But unfortunately, her brother was killed during the battle, sacrificing himself to save Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, and a young boy. Strange and Stark plan to find Vision to prevent Thanos from retrieving the Mind Stone, but before they can, they're attacked by two of the children of Thanos, Ebony Maw and Cull Obsidian. They eventually gain help in their battle from Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, as Strange is being beamed up onto their spaceship. Peter and Tony follow Strange onto the ship, while Maw attempts to torture him into giving up the Time Stone, and eventually Maw is killed after being sent flying out of the side of the ship into space. The three decide they're going to bring the fight to Thanos, and so they land on his home planet Titan, where they're met by the Guardians of the Galaxy, who they team up with after a short misunderstanding. While waiting for Thanos to arrive, Strange uses the Time Stone to go forward in time and view the 14,605 possible outcomes of their fight against him.
How many did we win? One.
By the time Thanos gets back on Titan, he had already collected 4 of the 6 Infinity Stones. Still, they go ahead with their attack and nearly remove his Infinity Gauntlet, but he's able to overpower them. He has a one-on-one battle against Iron Man, which ends with Thanos stabbing him in the stomach. But before he can execute Tony, Strange stops him and bargains for Tony's life to be spared, saying he'll give up the Time Stone in return. Thanos agrees, and after collecting the Time Stone, he heads to Earth to collect the final Infinity Stone. Throughout all this, Thanos' army had already begun its attack on Earth, with the Avengers holding them off as they try to find a way to remove the Mind Stone from Vision's head without killing him. But with Thanos finally arriving, Vision asks Wanda to destroy the stone, since she's the only one with the power to do so. So she does in a heartbreaking scene, and the destruction of the stone results in Vision's death. But Thanos, now in possession of the Time Stone, uses it to bring Vision back to life and reform the stone, before tearing it out of his head himself. Now with the power of the 6 stones, Thanos does indeed wipe out half of all life, including Strange, Wanda, and about half of the Avengers, with a single snap of his fingers. 3 weeks after the snap, the remaining Avengers find Thanos in retirement on a faraway planet, and after learning he used the stones to destroy the stones, Thor beheads him. 5 years later, in the year 2023, the Avengers figure out a way to travel through time to collect the Infinity Stones from past timelines and bring back everyone that was lost. As they're collecting the stones, 2014 variant of Thanos learns of their plans and follows them back to their timeline. The Avengers return to their timeline with the stones, and Hulk, being the only Avenger that could handle the stone's gamma signature, puts on the Infinity Gauntlet and snaps his fingers to bring back everyone lost in the blip, severely injuring his arm. Just then, 2014 Thanos and his army arrive, and a huge battle ensues, during which we finally see why Strange asked for Tony's life to be spared and gave up the Time Stone, when Tony uses the power of the Infinity Stones and sacrifices himself to wipe out Thanos and his army. The Avengers then return the stones to their respective timelines and try to return to life as they knew it, but that turns out to be more difficult for some than others. A few months later, now in 2024, Strange is met at the Sanctum by Peter Parker, who was also snapped out of existence by Thanos. Peter had formed a very close relationship with Tony Stark after their first interaction in 2016, so his loss takes a heavy toll on him and allows him to be manipulated by Quentin Beck, aka Mysterio, a former employee at Stark Industries who created a holographic system that was disregarded by Stark, and after being fired due to his instability, Beck seeks retribution and joined forces with other former Stark employees, using weaponized drones and his own hologram technology to create the illusion of Mysterio, and be perceived as an even greater hero than Iron Man ever was. Eventually, Peter discovered Mysterio's deception and defeated Beck, who died after being inadvertently shot by one of his own drones. But before his death, Beck created a falsified video that incriminated Spider-Man and exposed his true identity to the world, so Peter meets with Strange, hoping he could go back in time and make it so that his identity was never revealed. Although Strange is no longer able to go back in time without the Time Stone, he does say he could cast a spell to make everyone forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Wong, who was made the new Sorcerer Supreme after Strange had disappeared for 5 years in the blip, disapproves, claiming the spell is too dangerous, traveling the dark borders between known and unknown realities. But Strange convinces him it'll be okay, and says Peter's been through enough. So Strange takes Peter into the Sanctum's basement space called the Undercroft, and begins casting the spell. But after realizing that his closest friends and family could forget everything they've ever been through, Peter repeatedly changes the parameters of the spell, causing it to get out of control and nearly pulling in people from other universes that know Peter Parker is Spider-Man, so Strange is forced to shut it down. But although Strange was able to contain the spell for the most part, a few multiversal trespassers slipped through the cracks, with Strange first fighting Dr. Kurt Connors, aka the Lizard, from The Amazing Spider-Man released in 2012, while Peter first encounters Dr. Otto Octavius, aka Dr. Octopus, from Spider-Man 2 released in 2004. They later find and capture the 3 other multiversal threats: Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin from Spider-Man released in 2002, Max Dillon, aka Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2 released in 2014, and Flynn Marko, aka the Sandman from Spider-Man 3 released in 2007, and lock them all in the Undercroft. Strange plans on sending them back to their respective universes with the Machina de Cadavis, an ancient relic that has the power to contain spells and unleash them with the push of a button. But while alone with the variants, Peter learned that they're each villains of their universe's Spider-Man, and that most of them will die in their battle against him upon returning to their universe. So Peter pleads with Strange not to send them back, but Strange claims that in the grand calculus of the multiverse, their sacrifice means infinitely more than their lives. He begins the ritual, forcing Peter to snatch the box away with a web, before attempting to run off with it. So Strange sends them into their mirror dimension and takes back the box pretty easily. But before he can exit, Peter realizes the mirror dimension is made up of geometric shapes and mathematically figures out a way to web Strange up and take the box back, along with Strange's sling ring, before exiting and leaving Strange trapped inside while he attempts to cure the villains. And he actually does succeed in his attempt, thanks in large part to two variants of himself that were also transported into his universe from the 2002 to 2007 Spider-Man trilogy and the 2012 to 2014 Amazing Spider-Man films respectively. Strange is then released from the mirror dimension by Peter's best friend Ned Leeds, who shocks himself and Strange with his newfound ability. But there was still one multiversal threat left to cure, that being the Green Goblin, who unleashes the spell after throwing a pumpkin bomb into the Machina. Strange does his best to contain the spell, while Peter successfully cures Norman, before Peter realizes that the spell could be reversed if Strange casts another spell to make everyone forget who Peter Parker is. And although Strange hesitates at first, Peter assures him he'll be okay, and so Strange casts the spell, sending every variant back to their realities, while also making everyone, including himself, forget who Peter Parker is. Another Avenger heavily affected by Thanos' attack was of course Wanda, who had returned from the blip to find Vision's body no longer beside her. After the Avengers' victory, Wanda, wanting to have a funeral for Vision, tracked his body to SWORD headquarters, an intelligence agency dedicated to protecting Earth from both extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional threats. She's taken to see him by the director of SWORD, Tyler Hayward, who reveals that they're taking Vision's body apart, claiming it to be their legal and ethical obligation, with him being the most sophisticated sentient weapon ever made. Wanda claims he's not a weapon and that he deserves a funeral, but Hayward refuses, and she's forced to say her goodbyes at the facility. After seeing the dismantled body of Vision, Wanda drives out to a property in Westview, New Jersey that's revealed to have been purchased by Vision before his death, with the intention of building a house on it for them to grow old in. With the realization that she and Vision won't be able to live out their dream life together, Wanda unleashes chaos magic for the first time and creates a hex over the town of Westview, inside of which she has control over everyone and everything that happens. Her magic also allows her to recreate Vision, and the two begin living out their dream suburban life in the mold of a TV sitcom, with her turning the town's civilians into side characters. In this dream world she's created, she and Vision have twin sons born with superpowers, Billy and Tommy, with Billy, like Wanda, being able to manipulate energy and having telekinetic powers, and Tommy being able to move at superhuman speeds like her brother. An apparent civilian named Geraldine helped Wanda during the birth of her sons, but after Wanda mentions Pietro, her spell over Geraldine breaks, and Geraldine brings up how Pietro was killed by Ultron. Wanda then recognizes the sword symbol on Geraldine's necklace and promptly banishes her from the hex. Upon her return to the outside world, it's revealed that Geraldine was actually sword agent Monica Rambeau. Monica was first introduced during the events of Captain Marvel, taking place in the 1990s as the daughter of Maria Rambeau, a former US Air Force pilot alongside close friend Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, and the founder of SWORD. By 2018, Maria became sick with cancer, and Monica had been looking after her before being snapped out of existence by Thanos. When the Avengers eventually defeated Thanos and brought everyone back, Monica returned as well, only to learn that her mother had died during the blip. Following her return, she went back to working with SWORD, whose priority at the moment was helping those inside the hex Wanda created, which she eventually entered for a brief period before being caught by Wanda and banished. Meanwhile, Wanda's recreated Vision has become suspicious that Wanda's hiding something from him, confused as to why he can't remember anything about his life before Westview. But before he can learn what's truly going on, their doorbell rings, and it's revealed to be Wanda's brother Pietro at the doorstep, now without his accent and with a different face. He appears to be aware of Wanda's control over everything else in the town, and says he's actually impressed. He asks how she managed to do all this, but Wanda claims she doesn't know, and only remembers feeling completely alone and empty before all of this happened. Vision, meanwhile, has taken it upon himself to find out what's really going on, and ends up at the very edge of the hex's border. He tries exiting through it, but as he does, his body starts coming apart. Still, he calls out to the sword soldiers to help the civilians. Billy's telepathic abilities allow him to sense that his father's in trouble, and he informs Wanda of what he sees, so Wanda expands the size of the hex to save him. Hayward wants to kill Wanda to put a stop to the anomaly, but Monica believes if Wanda's the problem, then she has to be the solution. So Monica enters the hex once again to reason with her, but after crossing the hex's barrier multiple times, Rambeau's DNA is rewritten, and she gains superhuman abilities that she uses to hold her own against Wanda. She tries convincing Wanda to put a stop to this before Hayward burns Westview to the ground, but Wanda refuses, and the two are interrupted by an apparent civilian, Agnes, who's been playing the role of Wanda's close friend and neighbor, and who takes Wanda to her house. Earlier, Wanda had sent her sons off to Agnes's house, so she could spend the day alone, but when Wanda goes into the basement to find them, she gets locked inside of what appears to be a lair, and Agnes reveals herself to be Agatha Harkness, an undercover witch. In 1693, Agatha had been secretly practicing forbidden dark magic before being caught by her own coven and bound to a wooden post for trial. The witches tried to kill her with energy beams. She was able to reverse the beam's effect onto them and kill them. Over 300 years later, she sensed the presence of chaos magic radiating from the hex and entered the anomaly to harness Wanda's magic, claiming it to be greater than any magic she had seen before. It's revealed that she had originally sent fake Pietro to manipulate manipulate Wanda into telling her how she created the Hex. But with that failing, she now forces Wanda to relive events from her past, such as the night her parents died, the experiment that gave her powers, and one particular conversation with Vision following Pietro's death, where their love for one another began. The final event Agatha has her relive is the day she saw the dismantled body of Vision at Sword headquarters and created the Hex, and Agatha realizes the Hex was created subconsciously. Now believing Wanda's just in over her head, she tells her to surrender her power to someone that'll actually know what to do with it, and in return she'll let her keep the anomaly for herself. Wanda attacks her with a blast, but Agatha just absorbs it, so Wanda launches a car at her, which takes her out for a moment. Vision then appears behind her, but it doesn't appear to be her recreated Vision, with this one being colored in white. He then places his hands on her face and attempts to crush her skull. It turns out, although Hayward claimed to be taking Vision's body apart, he was actually rebuilding him to use as a weapon, with his first mission being to kill Wanda. Wanda is luckily saved by her recreated Vision, and the two Visions brawl as Agatha attacks Wanda once again. Agatha reveals that she believes Wanda is the Scarlet Witch, claiming there to be an entire chapter dedicated to her in the Darkhold, also known as the Book of the Damned, but Wanda refuses to believe she's a witch. So Agatha releases the citizens of Westview from Wanda's spell and forces her to see the torture she's caused these innocent people to endure. This causes Wanda to begin destroying the Hex so the people can escape, but in doing so she begins destroying her recreated Vision and their sons, so she reforms the Hex's barrier. But during the brief moment the Hex was opened, Hayward and other Sword agents were able to enter. They first target Billy and Tommy, but the boys were able to thwart their attack with the use of their powers. Hayward attempts to kill them himself, but as he shoots at them, Monica intervenes and manages to absorb the bullets using her newfound abilities. Meanwhile, Vision has managed to reason with White Vision, with the two discussing what makes one of them the true Vision, and they come to the conclusion that their memories and past experiences are what make them who they are. So Wanda's recreated Vision helps to uncover the data being kept from the White Vision and bring back the memories of his past life as an Avenger, leading the White Vision to fly out of the Hex. Wanda's recreated Vision then watches alongside their sons as Wanda defeats Agatha and learns her true power as the Scarlet Witch, ridding Agatha of her magic and leaving her to live out her life as Agnes in Westview. That night, she finally says goodbye to her sons and Vision and puts an end to the Hex, now making it her mission to understand this power she possesses. She's later seen hiding out in a cabin alone, drinking tea in her physical form while also studying in the Darkhold in her astral form, in an attempt to potentially bring her dream family back to life and maybe looking throughout the multiverse for their existence. On the topic of the multiverse, Marvel's Disney Plus series What If takes a deeper look at universes outside of the main MCU and reimagines noteworthy events such as the origin of Doctor Strange. In the main MCU, when Strange invites Christine to accompany him to a neurological society dinner, she declines his offer. But in this separate universe, she accepts and is now in the car during Strange's accident, during which he had originally injured his hands. This time though, Strange isn't severely injured, and instead, Christine is killed in the accident. This led Strange to search for answers across the world, eventually finding Kamar-Taj and becoming a master of the mystic arts. The events of the Doctor Strange film play out the same way in this universe, with Strange becoming the Sorcerer Supreme and using the Time Stone to defeat Dormammu and the Zealots. But following their victory, he's shown to be still having a hard time letting go of the past, and he decides to use the Time Stone to go back in time in an attempt to prevent Christine's death. He tries and fails multiple times to reverse her death, before being met by the Ancient One, who explains that the death of Christine Palmer is an absolute point in time, making it unmovable and unchangeable, and that her death is where it starts for him to become Earth's protector against any mystical threats. But Strange claims nothing is impossible, and that he only requires more power. The Ancient One warns him that this path will only lead to darkness, and that she'll be forced to stop him, but Strange says she'll have to find him first, and activates the Eye of Agamotto. She blasts him with a beam until Strange suddenly wakes up in a forested area, where he meets Obang, the keeper of the lost books of Cagliostro, and Strange begins studying them to learn how to break an absolute point. He discovers he could gain the power to do so through the absorption of other beings, and so over the next several years, he absorbs numerous beings, which changes his appearance and gives him various new abilities. Once he's reached a sufficient amount of power, Strange looks to reverse Christine's death, and goes to say goodbye to a now much older Obang on his deathbed. Strange offers to prolong his life, but Obang says even in their world, death is part of the plan. Strange says he can't accept that, and Obang says he knows, but maybe the other Strange can. We're then shown Strange, still seated in the sanctum moments before using the Eye of Agamotto to go back in time, but he instead chooses against doing so. When exiting the sanctum, he notices the world around him seemingly coming apart, and he's then met by a psychic impression sent through a splinter in reality from the Ancient One, who reveals that he had used the Eye of Agamotto to go back in time and reverse Christine's death, so she was forced to stop him. But when he went further back in time to find the lost books of Cagliostro, she was unable to follow after him, so she drew upon the power of the Dark Dimension to split the timeline, creating two Doctor Stranges in one reality. She warns him that if the other Strange succeeds in reversing an absolute point, it could destroy their reality. He's then met by the other Strange, who takes him back to the place where the accident happened. Strange Supreme says they'll have to merge together and become whole again in order to save her, but Strange refuses, saying it'll destroy the world. So Strange Supreme attacks him, and the two brawl, during which Strange Supreme showcases his new abilities. Strange still manages to get the upper hand and seemingly defeats him with a powerful blast, but Strange Supreme is still able to overtake Strange's soul. With the two Stranges merging, Strange Supreme uses his immense power to bring Christine back to life. Unfortunately, their reality still continues to come apart, and Strange calls out to the Watcher, who Strange claims to have read about and sensed the presence of, and believes he could help fix all of this. But the Watcher says even if he could, he abides by an oath that won't allow him to intervene, so Strange Supreme is forced to watch as his universe and Christine cease to exist, now being trapped alone inside a pocket dimension. An unspecified amount of time later, the Watcher comes to Strange Supreme, seeking his help in protecting the multiverse. The Watcher was forced to break his oath after an even more powerful Ultron variant gained possession of the Infinity Stones and threatened to destroy the multiverse. In an attempt to save it, he's called upon several variants of heroes throughout realities, those being Captain Carter, a variant of Peggy Carter that was given the Super Soldier Serum instead of Steve Rogers, a variant of Eric Killmonger, who managed to become King of Wakanda and Black Panther after killing Tony Stark and Prince T'Challa, a less responsible variant of Thor, a variant of T'Challa that was abducted by the Ravagers instead of Peter Quill and later became known as Star-Lord, a variant of Gamora that managed to defeat Thanos and destroy the stones, a variant of Black Widow who was the last surviving human on Earth following Ultron's attack, and of course, Strange Supreme. The Guardians of the Multiverse managed to defeat Ultron after shooting an arrow into the eye of Ultron containing the mind of Arnim Zola, former Hydra scientist, who destroys him from within. But after the stones are separated from Ultron's body, Killmonger connects his suit to Ultron's armor and takes the stones. He offers the others a chance to use the stones to fix their respective universes, but they refuse. So he attacks them before being stopped by Zola, now controlling Ultron's body, who attempts to take the stones for himself. Strange then realizes that they were never meant to win, and were only meant to keep the stones separated, so he traps Zola and Killmonger inside of a pocket dimension. It's revealed that the Watcher foresaw everything that happened, and knew it would end in Strange's sacrifice, who he thanks but still leaves alone to watch over Zola and Killmonger and ensure they never escape. Now, although that was all you really need to know before watching Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, there's one more thing you probably should know based on trailers and promotional footage. So if you haven't seen any of that yet, then I suggest you stop the video here and come back once you've seen it, or once you've watched the film in its entirety. In Marvel's first full-length Multiverse of Madness trailer, we hear a voice that appears to be that of Patrick Stewart.
We should tell him the truth.
Patrick Stewart has appeared in Marvel projects before in universes outside of the main MCU, as Charles Xavier, aka Professor X, a mutant born with immense telepathic and telekinetic abilities. He spent his life finding and educating other mutants, as well as founding and leading the X-Men, a team of powerful mutants created to protect Earth from its greatest threats. It's unclear what role he'll play in Multiverse of Madness as of right now, but I'm almost 100% certain that Stewart will be returning as Professor X in the film. And that was everything you need to know before watching Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Once again, if you want to know more about the characters that will be or might be appearing in Multiverse of Madness, then check out our previous video and let us know in the comments what characters you're hoping makes an appearance. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.